Thank you for the great audience being in front here. So how many of you guys know Nvidia? Great. What do we do? AI platform, hardware, computers, GPUs? Great, awesome. Okay, I love this audience because not one of you guys said we only do gaming, so that's perfect. That is awesome, great. So today I will talk a little bit about why should you write once and you'll be able to deploy your application everywhere. Just get a quick hand, are you guys like startups or hospitals or radiology yourself? Hospitals. Research lab, great. No startups? All right, startups are my baby. Anyway, so we'll enable the startups to be able to help the healthcare hospitals and the radiology center and research firms to be able to leverage a lot of GPU accelerated application. Thank you for joining us. Uh-oh. Okay, we're good. So in terms of agenda, we'll talk about who is NVIDIA and what is NVIDIA Clara, and also how does NVIDIA and AWS work together, and why should you containerize on NGC for EGX. Lots of acronyms that we'll explain, so don't worry. And last but not least, we'll do a quick summary. All good? Any special requests? No, because they're not part of presentation. But we're right next door, so come stop by and ask us any questions if you guys have. All right, so in case, for those of you who don't know the full picture of NVIDIA, we actually started absolutely in the gaming space. So we are really great on using graphics for gaming, design, or rendering, and that's what we're known for, and that's our bread and butter. We continue to excel in that space. And now we actually move into like HPC for the last several decades, and moving forward in this AI space the last 5 years, we do AI training, inference, robotics, self-driving car, and of course, we're at a healthcare conference. So healthcare is extremely important for us. To many people's surprise, we've actually been in the healthcare business for more than a decade now. From the very beginning when we invented CUDA, that's actually our entire computing platform where everyone gets to build their applications on top. Then the partnership with Siemens and GE really put the foundation in terms of how we're going to embed our GPUs into their devices. To now today, you see a lot of announcements related to startups leveraging AI on top of GPUs to be able to train their applications, to we building our Clara SDK, which is a developer toolkit to be able for them to build on top of, and how do we work with the hospitals to take these, and the research firms to take these out there to the masses. So the trend that we're really seeing, of course, that all of us have been here in the last couple of years, AI. And the second thing is IoMT, so which is the Internet of Medical Things. And the last but not least is what we are here doing, especially is bringing compute to the edge. Because a lot of the use cases these days, we actually need to have like very strong compute and be able to have real-time responses back. And things like that really require some very strong computation power right there in the hospital, right there in the research firms. So folks been asking what is actually Clara, right? So we've been developing Clara Toolkit. We call it the application framework for the last couple years now. We officially launched it earlier in March timeframe, and now we have like thousands of developers using it. So you guys can take a look at that live demo literally right across from here, where we have like Clara Train, Clara Deploy, AI assisted annotation, and a lot of the pre-trained models for you guys to take a look at. So if we were to really look at a diagram perspective, we have the Clara Train as component number 1, Clara Deploy, and then very recently, this week, we actually announced our Clara EGX SDK, so which I'll talk a little bit more about this. But before I dive in, quick raise of hand. Everyone here knows what training and inference is? Great. Okay, not everyone raised their hand. All right, I'm going to take a step back and just explain a little bit. So training and inference is actually a pipeline for be able to do AI. So for example, from the very beginning, if I have lots of data, I am learning about these nuts, okay, tumor in healthcare space as an example. I need to take a bunch of images of these nuts and then teach a model to learn, okay, this is peanuts, this is raisin, this is almonds. All right, and then I train a model to make sure the model is extremely smart, And then next one, all right, I drop in a peanut in front of this model and then ask the model, is this a peanut or is this an almond, right? So then that phase of identifying whether this is a peanut or an almond, the last phase, that's inference. So we have two stages, right? We train the model, we inference it. We ask the model, are you smart enough now to be able to identify this is a peanut or a raisin? So that's kind of like two phases where in each phase depends on your data, depends on your model, depends on your complexity of the model. You will require different computation power to be able to do the training and inference. And last but not least, we added the EGX SDK is mainly because for ultrasound or endoscopy use cases where you need to connect to cameras. As an example, our EGX developer kit, the embedded developer kit, is also now announced this week too. So this is kind of the framework you can take a look at from the unlabeled data, which is my bag, right? I unlabeled it. Now I need to label them, saying this is peanuts and this is almonds, and then I start doing the training. Right? And then after that, then you can use a lot of different inference toolkit to be able to figure out what this is. Then if your use case from that scenario actually includes embedded devices, then we have other things that's available for you to use. So for the folks who are already a little bit ahead in AI, especially have a technical background, because there are a lot of you guys, this diagram probably makes a little bit more sense to you guys. So Nvidia GPUs, this is how we get paid. Everything above is for free for you to take. We want the developers, we want to enable the entire ecosystem to be able to do what they do. So we started a lot of different, everything is built on this CUDA layer. So for example, for those who cannot read in the back, AI-assisted annotation, pre-trained model, I/O adapters to transfer learning, everything we package them up into these SDKs you can just download from NGC. NGC, Nvidia GPU Cloud, is not to be confused with another cloud that we're building, because here I'm at AWS. This is only just a registry platform. It is not a cloud. It was a very bad marketing decision to pick that name, but just thought to clarify, because AWS is right here. AWS GPU instances or other on-prem devices sits right here. This is how we play together. This is how NVIDIA and AWS play together. So NVIDIA is not a competitor against the cloud. NVIDIA GPUs are inside of instances where you get to take from AWS or other cloud service provider. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, great. So specifically on AWS, the EC2 instance, we have a couple of GPUs offered for you guys. Number one is T4, which is a universal GPU for both training and inference. And the second one is Tesla V100. It's quite beefy for training specifically. Remember the pipeline about training, inference, right? So the first mile, like if you use V100, that's quite good for your workload, usually. And then we have other options that are slightly older, but a lot of customers still use them, which is the K80s and M60. So when you go to AWS, you can just click on the P2 or P3 instances, then you would get really fast computation power. And people leverage GPUs to be able to do training is because the images in healthcare spaces especially is quite GPU intensive. But from the inference perspective, you may or may not use GPUs. That depends on your use case. Do you really need the real-time response? That's an example. And today, we announced a new partnership where we enabled our T4, which was the first GPUs that I talked about in the AWS Outpost. Who knows AWS Outpost?